Okay, let's see. Hikari says, I have a question. Why do non-Christians go to Christian streams, then start to question the Bible? This frustrates me. This is a good question, Hikari. And what I think it has to do with is that all of us have a center in our lives. The Bible teaches pretty clearly that we're worshiping creatures. And we do not have a choice whether or not to worship. The only choice we have is who we're going to worship or what we're going to worship. So in the same way that Christians worship God, you also have a lot of non-Christians who worship not God, if that makes sense. Now, some non-Christians are happy to worship animals, photography, farming. Some non-Christians are happy to worship snorkeling, traveling, vacation, fish, bird watching, right? Plenty of non-Christians are happy to worship those things instead. But some non-Christians want to worship not God. And when you worship not God, and you have a bunch of people out there touting God to you, there's just an impulse in you to go out and proclaim you're not God to all of the God lovers. Because that's who you worship, after all. It's kind of like you love birds, and then you hear that in town, there is the bird-hating convention have arrived, right? And they're introducing lion birds to the local population. They want to introduce lion birds. They're petitioning to introduce lion birds. They can fly and kill all birds on sight because they're a mix of a lion and a bird. And everyone is like, we can't bird watch if lion birds are introduced to the population because they're going to kill all of our birds. We're emphatically against this. And so if you love birds and you love bird watching, you're going to show up and petition to the lion bird introduction seminar. You're going to petition that. You love birds after all. The same kind of goes for these online dynamics between theists and non-theists, etc. If you worship not God, it doesn't surprise me at all that in some of your spare time, you go around and find people that worship God and you try to drag them down. Try to point out to them how dumb they are, how they're ruining the planet, how their beliefs are bad for mankind, on and on and on it goes. Okay? I think this is why people do it. I'm guessing here a little bit, SJ. It's a good question. I'm guessing a little bit, but I feel like that's what's going on. We all have something we worship. We're all passionate and emphatic about certain things in our lives. And if that's what you're passionate and emphatic about, you're going to be looking for people who believe differently than you so you can try to refute them. Psalm 22, I feel like they wouldn't call it worshiping even though it is. Exactly. They would try to refute that. They would say they're not worshiping anything. But if you describe worship as that passionate devotion or commitment to a thing, I think it fits the bill perfectly. Again, a lot of people aren't going to like that. But the fact of the matter is we are made to be worshiping creatures. This is why we get obsessive over something. Think about the last Valorant patch, for example. Or any video game that's coming up. We're on Twitch after all. You got a new video game coming out. I'll tell you guys one. Some of you guys know I used to play Age of Empires. Age of Empires 4 is coming out soon, guys. Later this year. Oh, man. In my previous days, I would have been watching all of the YouTube content on Age of Empires 4. I would have been trying to get all the sneak peeks. I would have been scouring the forums for more information, trying to learn more and more about Age of Empires 4. I would have been planning out my strategies with each of the civilizations, and I would be there on launch day. I would pre-order, I would get full price, and I would spend the whole launch day playing. Okay? I've done that plenty of times with video games. Guys, that's worship. That's worship. You're obsessing over it. It's a passionate devotion to this idea, to this concept. It's capturing your heart and soul, and I'm chasing after it with everything I've got. And you can't tell me that there are human beings out there who don't live with that impulse. You know, that's over a video game, but plenty of people do it with other things in their life. Any passion you have, any devotion you have, any love you have like that, that's worship. That's how it manifests itself, right? You're passionately seeking these things out and you're obsessing over it. The Christian message says this: whenever you direct that impulse at anything that is not God, it goes wrong for you. It doesn't go well for you. If you direct that impulse to God and then allow that worship to rain down into all of your deliberate practices, then it goes well for you. That's the Christian message. But if you try to make something an end in and of itself, that's a bad path. That's a bad path. You end up worshiping things that cannot satisfy, cannot gratify. Okay? If instead you worship the one true God, then you can, again, allow that impulse to rain down in all other areas of your life. And then you can appreciate everything as given from God as a gift. You can stop and give thanks. Thank you, God. God, I love the fact that you have given us this opportunity. Thank you, God. Right? Everything's in its proper place. That's how it goes best for human beings, for human creatures. That's how it goes best for us. So you're right, Psalm 22. A lot of people would say that isn't worship. I'm not worshiping. But that's what it is. That's what it looks like practically, right? We've got a messed up idea in Protestantism and Western culture in general that the things that are most true about you are the things that you say with your mouth. I worship this, I don't worship that. I do this, I don't do that, etc. But we all know that's not true. There's an old saying that has come down from the ancient sages of time. Actions speak louder than words. And we all know that to be true. So you can tell me all day long that you don't worship anything. But the fact of the matter is, what you are doing with your actions demonstrates worship. It does.